Tal, I got you here, the guru of, I guess you could say, fantasy football. That's what you think you are.
Yeah.
What is the trophy? Let's just start with the bullshit behind you. What is that trophy?
So this trophy is a fantasy football trophy. There's a ring on there too for a different league. And on there is the name of the league.
The
And
Dirty
then
Sanchez?
it's a perpetual trophy. So like everyone who's won for the last, what do? We got 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 years. We're on our 12th year right now. And yeah, I got a belt over here too. And for another league, I got this ring.
How many years you been playing fantasy football?
12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I've been on some other podcasts with Tal on another friend of ours, Optimized Being. First of all, tell them your first and last name so they know who the hell you are.
Tal Malachovsky.
Where can they find you?
thefantasyscout.com.
Okay. Is that your website?
That's my website. Yeah.
I want to break this down because I used to gamble throughout my life, many, many years, but I got out right kind of when the fantasy football phase kind of kicked in. So I told you, a film about gambling called Sore Losers. It's about the underground world of gambling in Chicago. And, then I had some kids and I don't say I gamble anymore necessarily. I used to hang out in Vegas. I used to travel all over the country. I also played craps, blackjack. I was really engulfed, let's say. I even went to Vegas in my honeymoon. But what I want to talk to you about is I don't truly know the logistics of fantasy football. I really don't. I think there's a lot of people out there like myself who know a lot about football to a certain degree, but kind of don't know about fantasy, if that makes sense. They still bet games, especially I'd say my age demographic, older middle-aged guys or even baby boomers, but we'd like to know more about it. Can you start for me from ground zero? How does it work? And I kind of know about the players, you pick certain players, but I don't even know how that works because, say, for instance, me, if I'm going to be picking people, QB, Mahomes, Brady, maybe if I'm going to pick some receivers, AB, Evans, let's say running backs, I'm going to jump on, I wouldn't even jump, Zeke or somebody, or what you call it from Tennessee. How would I forget his name?
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Henry. I'm going to grab the best players. I don't know why all of you don't do that. I don't understand how to pick the drafts. Do you have a draft? Let's start from ground zero. Go ahead.
So there are actually multiple different types of fantasy football. So most people play what we call redraft. Redraft is every year you draft a new set of players. What that player does in the real world is the points that you get in fantasy. Your team gets added up. So you can have a quarterback from Miami and have a running back from Tennessee, and right. So all those points get added up, and then you go head to head against a league mate. You can have 10, 12, 14. Most people play in 10 or 12 person leagues. Makes the most sense from a talent pool perspective, meaning that how many people are actually available in football that allow each team to have a decent team, right? The more, if you have 14 teams, that's less talent pool that's available. And then you end up with guys that are 5th and 6th string wide receivers that may not necessarily give you points. So it becomes more difficult. So anyway,
it's mainly offensive. That's what this game's about, mainly, not defense, correct?
So there is a defensive component, and some people play that IDP, which is you can draft defensive players. Most people don't play that way. It's not necessarily that it's boring, but it requires much more knowledge about the sport. And most people who are playing fantasy football are on the offensive side. And that's why the league is actually going towards protecting the offense and making it more prone to higher scoring, games. You protect the quarterback, it seems there's a lot more penalties on the defense because they want to make sure that it's an offense oriented league.
Right.
So that's redraft. Then there's Dynasty, where you draft a team and then every year you're drafting just the rookies that are coming in. Wow. So you get to keep players. There are keeper leagues also where you're just keeping X amount of your team. So like 1, 2, or 3 players and then you kind of have to like exclude the rounds that you took those players in, kind of thing. And then there's something like called best ball, where you take you draft, I think it's 18 players, and then instead of starting a lineup and having a bench, they automatically put the best players in the lineup. So whoever scored the most points gets put in your lineup. That's a different type of style. But most people are playing what we call redraft, which is you draft a new team every season.
Okay. And let's put it this way. Is that more you and your buddies? I shouldn't say you, because you do this at a much higher level. It seems like you have your own website and all these things. Do most guys say, because I never joined them, they do it amongst their own friends, they kind of do this? Or do you go online and do it with Vegas to make money? Or do they go on a website like you to try to win the trophy? Or what's...
All of the above, but mostly people are doing it with their buddies because it's a lot of fun to talk shit with them, when you're beating them or whatever, right? So I have a league chat, which I recommend most people do for a lot of reasons. It gives, and this leads to a different part of fantasy, making trades, but so you could just talk all kinds of nonsense while the games are going on and when you're beating your friends. But yeah, most of it is amongst your friends, which what makes it so much fun, in my opinion. There are leagues that you can play with against professionals or strangers, which also could be fun as long as there's some kind of forum or chat forum that you can, talk smack. It's the funnest part.
I see these different things online where there's a lot of money involved with this. So I get kind of confused because what's legal and illegal nowadays with gambling to a certain
They
degree?
don't. That's the problem with it, in my opinion. They don't construe it as gambling, which I totally think it is. I mean, it's obvious that it is gambling.
Okay.
But that's what the loophole is that allows it to be in every state pretty much out there.
Okay.
It's still not yet legal in New York, but it's getting there. And that's from like a sports betting perspective, that it's becoming legal almost everywhere. But fantasy football is everywhere. And I'm sorry, what was the question again?
The question was basically you're answering it. Like, is it legal or illegal? I'm kind of confused on all the, not intricates, but it's kind of interesting how...
Well, you have DraftKings and you have FanDuel and you have these sites where you can go in and play against strangers, or against everyone all at once. So like if you put the best lineup together, they call that daily fantasy.
Okay.
So daily fantasy is you pick X, and it's not just for football. They have it even for MMA and all kinds of things, right?
Right.
Yeah, which I think is kind of pretty out of control, but it's cool. And you're picking your best lineup, and you can win money based on that. Like there are free entry ones, but there are also paid ones, of course, anywhere from, they have in DraftKings, they have like a 5-cent entry thing, just people do it because then you have some skin in
Like
the game.
nickel slots or anything.
Yeah.
Low end, and then you could go high, right? You could win
I mean, you
thousands or
could go
hundreds.
100,000. Yeah, I don't know if there's thousands, but there's definitely in the 100 category.
Okay, and let me break this down too. Does this go for a whole season? I'm still a little confused there. Or is it per week you guys kind of go up against one another? Or is it a combination of many things?
So depending on the type of fantasy game that you're playing, like the daily is really only for that week.
Okay.
So in the redraft leagues, the fantasy where you're drafting a new team every year, you're playing against one person in your league every week, a different person, head to head. So you might have the second highest scoring points of the league and still lose that week.
Okay.
And I've seen people implement strategies for that to like mitigate the fairness of it, where they add you get a +1 win if you're in the top 6 scorers. But that's a whole other down the rabbit hole kind of combo. But you're playing for the whole season, and because fantasy has to be done before the playoffs, the NFL playoffs, they're usually play. They just added a week this year, right? So we have
Right.
7, but usually you play 13 weeks. This year we're doing 14 weeks, and then you have weeks 15, 16, 17 is the playoff weeks. And some of them have like 2-week schedules to so you have to play the same person twice and then you move on to the next level. I think that's dumb. I think it should be like regular football in the sense that you play a team once, you do or die, sudden death, I think it's called.
Yeah.
You win, you go on. That's
Yeah.
it. So that's the way we do it in my league. And there's another question here, or another thing that, so there are commissioners for leagues,
Okay.
and that just basically kind of keep the peace and kind of make sure that everything's running properly and no one's cheating. That's actually my opinion. There's different opinions about this, but the commissioner's main task is to make sure nobody is colluding with one another,
I gotcha.
so that there's no cheating and messing around going on, which has happened. I actually had to kick 2 people out because they colluded, and it's not, intent is hard to tell, and the future is hard to tell. So some leagues will allow the league to vote on whether or not a trade goes through. That is not the way my league works, because I can't tell the future. I don't know what a good trade is. And oftentimes you look back on a trade that you were on one side and
Yeah.
realize you were completely wrong about what you thought was going to happen in the future. So I realized that I cannot judge a trade and they all go through unless there's collusion, which is almost impossible to prove,
Okay.
until like somebody like trades a kicker for a running back, and then you're like, all right, and they're 1-8 and they're 8-1, and then you're like, what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. And then
Right. That's crazy.
yeah,
It just sounds, it reminds me of college football. I watch college football because my girlfriend's a Duck fan. She went to University of Oregon. Everything's Ducks in our whole place. And sometimes college is just too confusing for me. A lot of times there's just too many teams, plus the rankings, how they go and all this. And that's kind of how I look at fantasy football. Like I'd rather just pick a game if there's a point spread, parlay, round robin, kind of old school shit, not caught up with all the other intricates, kind of like what you go through. But let's start back with you. You were playing fantasy football, then you decided to create your own website. Is this correct? Right?
yeah. After a few years of playing, I realized that I would spend an enormous amount of time researching players, teams, coaches, weather,
Of course. Yeah. 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 Right.
So I decided to build a site.
Okay. How does this site benefit you? What do you have members coming there? They play with you? Are they strangers or just strictly yours stats, or what is it?
My site right now is rankings and betting advice. There's no playing. I don't really benefit from it other than helping other people win in their leagues. So that's my whole goal, is helping other people who are playing fantasy football have to reduce. So the people who don't want to spend the crazy amount of time that I do watching all the condensed games, looking at all the information online, reading about how the coaches' styles are and all that kind of stuff. If they want to just get a quick access kind of to look at my rankings, the rest of season rankings. So there's the weekly rankings, there's the rest of season rankings, and then you have the waiver or the free agency rankings, right? So who would you pick up that is available in 50% of the leagues or more, to make your team better, kind of thing. And so rest of season and waiver is like a secondary thing, but
Right.
the weekly rankings, a lot of people like, who's going to do the best this week? Should I sit or start this guy? Or, that kind of thing.
You're kind of like a little bit of a Google of
Yeah,
fantasy football thing. Like you're very informative, right? Is that kind of where?
exactly. And making it just straight, easy to navigate, not looking through,
Not having to go to Google and look at every team, everything going that way. You just have it right there.
yeah.
So it's broken down per player is what you're saying, or per team per player. Is that how that works on your
So the
site?
rankings are per position.
Okay.
So it's each position is broken down and then ranked.
How did you win what you won? So start me off from the beginning. What makes you kind of this guru in this area? Because you've won things, obviously, but you've won bigger things than just saying something that was just low level or local or something. How did you end up doing this? Kind of like, how did you win the trophy behind you?
This is my local league's trophy. So I'm a 4-time champion in that in the league. Winning one time is, you can construe as a fluke in some ways, right?
Okay. How many people though are a part of that?
So it's only 12 people. So there is a
Okay.
1 in 12 chance. But you
Okay.
would think that it would be even in that way, like that, you have a 1 in 12 chance of winning, but you do have to put and it's not, a lot of people think that it all comes down to the draft
Okay.
in a redraft league. It is not that at all.
Mm.
You have to play every week. You have to see who's available. There's this saying, if you got to be water, meaning that you have to be
Bruce
able to,
Lee.
yeah, you got to be water. You got to be able to flow with it, with what's happening in reality versus
Mhm.
what you thought was going to happen.
I gotcha. So what's the belt then?
The belt is an extension of winning in the league,
Okay.
and this is a different league altogether.
What is that one now with the rings?
This is a Sleeper Bot is a platform.
Okay.
So we play on ESPN with this league, and this
Okay.
is a platform that's Sleeper Bot. It's up and coming. They've been around for a few years. They're actually a much better platform that allows for all kinds of intricate, detailed type of settings, which ESPN is very limited on.
I gotcha. I gotcha. This has been a crazy year so far. We're
Yeah,
only in what, the fourth week? What are we in?
yeah. Week 4 is now starting.
It's crazy yesterday. Well, not yesterday. So, well, I guess yeah, Monday night, and then we had Sunday. That
There's
was
so many injuries.
it's crazy, right? Plus the T. I mean, even what's happening with the Chiefs, what's kind of happening with
1 and 2. What the hell?
I wish they would have lost to Cleveland, dude. So bad. I wish they would have been 0-3. I would have loved it. Look where
And
I'm
they're
headed.
close to losing there. Oh, you're a Bears fan? I'm
Ready? Let's
sorry.
go. Yeah, I've been an obsessed Bear fan my whole life. My
They've
family's been going to Bears games. My uncles and everybody for, I think, well, he passed away, but almost 100 years. They go way back to Wrigley. And my family members have near the goalpost. They used to have 20 seats. Now they have like 10 and 10, I think. So whenever I go to the games, I get to, it's been amazing throughout my life being able to go to the games, have those seats. Plus I have other wealthy family members that have seats as well that are incredible. But yeah, I love the Bears. I despise the Packers.
the
You're
Bears
a
got
you're a
what?
Phoenix fan now. You like that QB, that little guy running around.
Yeah, the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals. I used to be a Jets fan, and I still
Really?
have the mug. I was a Jets fan for a long time. I was actually originally a Lions fan when I was a kid because I was obsessed with Barry
Oh
Sanders.
yeah, very. Everyone
The
loved him.
way that guy moved, I was just like, what the hell is he doing? How does he do that?
The way he'd roll his ankles over, he's like a bowling ball.
It was amazing what he
It
would
was
do.
like a pinball, I used to say, kind of the way he maneuvered, in my
He would
opinion.
just do these little maneuvers that would like get out of. Oh man, it was incredible. I was a huge fan of. I'm still a huge fan of Barry Sanders, but then I became a Jets fan, local. A kind of Jet fan for 15 years, and
Right.
I would just see them lose over and over and over again. And then one day I'm sitting in my living room watching the game, the Jets losing as usual. I think they were on like the 1 yard line on first down, and they had 4 downs to do it, and they didn't get it. It's like they were on not even the 1 yard line. They were on the like a half a centimeter line, and they couldn't get it in.
Yeah.
And somebody sent me an article that said sports teams, the teams themselves, actually, when they win, their testosterone levels go up, and when they lose, their testosterone levels go down.
Yeah.
And then in the same article, it said that it actually says that it does the same thing for the fan base. So if
I
you're a
believe
fan
that.
of a losing team, your
Yeah.
testosterone levels actually go down, and that's what I decided to switch my teams. I was like, this is fuck the Jets. I'm done with them. And I was like, I really liked Kyler Murray coming in. I thought he was incredible. He's number 1 overall pick, also number 1 overall pick in baseball.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable athlete. Unbelievable.
Super athlete, a little undersized for football in terms of quarterback size, but he's been showing time and time again that it's irrelevant. You have like a Russell Wilson that does the same kind of thing, not necessarily
Very close. Yeah. He's like
Yeah,
a little version of him, kind of.
yeah. Except I think he's actually a little bit better, but that's just my take. And not Russell Wilson is one of the greats, so
Of course.
it says a lot about how I think about Kyler Murray. And then the coaching, Kingsbury, I thought coming in, new coach, new quarterback. You know what? I'm going to start with this team because I like a lot of the things that they're doing. And then the next year, they brought in one of the best wide receivers in the league in DeAndre Hopkins. I was like, this is a team that's doing things that I can appreciate, even if they're not number 1. I like what they're doing. I'm going to be a fan of this team.
Yeah, you got JJ too.
Yeah. And that's what they keep on doing things that are just incredibly
Right.
smart.
Yeah.
They, some people told me that I'm not allowed to do that I'm not allowed to switch teams, that it defies fandom. And then I would have my Jets friends, because I'm in New York. A lot of Jets fans, that I'm not allowed back. That if I just, I'm like, dude, I'm never coming back. You keep your Jets. And then like preseason this year, a lot of them were like, oh, we're gonna be so incredible. We got this new Zach Wilson, so great. I'm like, oh, okay. The Jets, it's a losing mentality franchise.
Right.
That's just their thing. They're not out there to win games.
Bad teams find a way to lose. I'd hate to say it, good teams find a way to win. But I do think throughout the history of NFL, there has been a lot of ups and downs. But there are certain teams that just always are kind of a losing franchise, them being one of them. Cleveland kind of being another, to a certain degree, right? I mean, we could
there's
Tampa, another one, right? And then you have teams that are kind of elite, that have always been kind of on the, it could be Pittsburgh, hypothetically. I guess Dallas hasn't been there in a while, but you have certain teams that always do pretty well. And then you kind of got 500 teams, which are kind of like the Bears. They're kind of in the middle a lot of times. Like they're almost close to getting to the playoffs a lot of times, or they do get there and lose. You have all these teams, though, that kind of, where you're at a lot of times. It's the ownership, obviously the GM and everything else, but
ownership, I think, has way more influence than they should, in my opinion.
And things are changing too, because let's just say Tampa Bay or like Florida teams now, with the incentives, with taxes, weather, year-round weather, pandemic situation. Where do you want to play? You know what I mean? Even location. Do you really want to play in the Midwest and freeze your ass off? I think college is going through that as well, where teams like Nebraska or even Notre Dame and all these Midwest kind of schools, a lot of them are saying, no, I want to play at California or Oregon, or I want to play in Florida. They want to go to warmer climates or more history, I guess, to a certain degree, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's two new LA teams, right, from last year.
Yeah, look at the stadium, the money they put into those teams. Look at Vegas. I'm just saying the incentives are more than just saying, oh, I want to play for Green Bay Packers. Well, that's great. I'm just saying, or the Bears. Look at the weather conditions, injuries again. What are you going to be playing in? Right? Okay, I'm going to go there. I'm going to be Brady at Tampa at my age. I'm going to go to Tampa. Even though the summers for a month or a month and a half are going to be tough, or whatever, fall, then it goes into beautiful weather. But I do think injury, the ice, like if you look at Walter Payton, well, Barry Sanders was in a dome, but you get players like Brett Favre that were playing in these type of weather conditions through their whole career, and even Brady in New England. I mean, that's crazy.
In Minnesota, that's brutal.
Well, Minnesota's got the dome too, right?
That's true.
So
still being in the environment of
of course, and it's living in that environment with your family.
Right. Also, that's the other part of it, right? These people do have lives, and they have to live outside of the football game itself. And who the hell wants to live in Detroit?
Oh, exactly. You got to understand, in this day and age, think about it was so different 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I think too, it was more traditional to be, well, there was less teams. A lot of things were different then. Let's call it for what it is. But now even teams like Tampa that you would have never wanted to maybe play with, or even Jacksonville, which are, we know that's a whole different franchise. But Miami, which is quite interesting, they were kind of known for being a very dominant team throughout the years, have kind of fallen the wayside, kind of like Dallas. So sometimes you think you got a badass franchise with the history behind you, and you go there and you still never win. So that's interesting in itself.
Yeah, that's true. There are a few like Jacksonville. They've never won. I believe they've never won a Super Bowl. They're a relatively newer franchise, but still.
Yeah, I think the ownership, they're not to dig on them. They just haven't found their way, because there's no reason a team in Florida, kind of like California, shouldn't be getting dominant players to come there and want to play, because the incentives, not only taxes, location, weather, it's beautiful over there. It's very nice. You got a really decent fan base. I realize
there are 3 teams in Florida.
Yeah, there's 3.
And you know what? They always say there's 3 teams in New York too, but there isn't. There's only one New York team. The other 2 are in New Jersey, which which drives me crazy. They should just be the New Jersey Giants already.
So New Jersey, I don't know that exactly. So you're saying what team? The Jets are the true New York team?
No, the Bills. Buffalo
Bills are the true New York team.
New York City, but they're New York.
Of
They
course.
actually play in New York.
I gotcha. And then the other teams both, I've seen the stadiums.
The Jets and Giants all both play out of the same stadium, in
Yeah.
New Jersey, and they practice in New Jersey. Like the Jets, I believe they practice in Hofstra. No,
It's not like they're playing in Manhattan either.
Right. I mean, they should be playing in New York, in my opinion. And they were supposed to. They wanted to build a stadium, and New York's nixed it, which I think is absurd.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that?
Oh my goodness.
I have one more thought that I actually wanted to say, and I when you asked me about like
tell me
bigger things of the, so I'm actually part of Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings.
Okay.
So like I contribute to Fantasy Pros, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, fantasy football conglomerate website. They take all the people in the experts in the industry from ESPN, NFL, Yahoo, all of them, Draft Sharks, whatever it is. And all the experts compete to be the best fantasy football advisors and betting advice. I'm getting better at fantasy football advice in terms of I'm going up the ranks. But I did really well last year in terms of betting advice. I was number 1 overall against all of those guys in terms of money line betting, in terms of over and under. I think I was ranked 60 out of like 250 of these experts. And then I was 9th overall when it came to against the spread, which is, those are pretty good stats for myself.
Yeah.
On that this year. And I just wanted to add more to my credibility there because I forgot about that when you asked me.
I like your style. We got to start doing this some more. I'm just going to try to figure it out with you, what we can do and not do, maybe besides just talk football, maybe something that's a little more interesting, or just maybe fantasy football. Or if you have ideas, maybe coming on and just doing something.
Well, I think talking about NFL in general is talking about fantasy football.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't look at it from that perspective, right? I just look at it from my own personal enjoyment in the sport. Because when I was obsessed with taking bets or betting, at times it ruined the sport for me because it becomes very emotional. You start to despise a lot of things about it. And I think people are going through that now regarding political shit. But I just love football for the enjoyment of football more than anything else. I hate the commercials. I just did a rant. I don't know if you saw it on my Instagram reel.
I did.
Did you laugh at it, or was it ridiculous?
Yeah. Yeah.
I threw in the it's kind of like how we all talk shit behind. My whole thing on Instagram is us talking a lot of shit now. And then behind closed doors, there's a lot of things that we actually enjoy about it as well. We just, but commercials are destroying me. So I tape all the games that I can. Tape all the games I want to see. And then I just watch them with no commercials throughout the rest of the week.
So I watched the Red Zone, which basically takes all of the games at once.
Yeah.
And you're just seeing it when they're in the 30, 40 yard mark in their own territory.
Yeah, I like that too.
And then I'll watch the condensed game because I hate the commercials as well. And the whole politics of all of it is kind of it. If I wasn't so obsessed with the sport, I probably would have left it.
Yeah, I think a lot of us at certain times were like, but we can't give it up. No, and I've kind of fallen off once the Cubs won the World Series, which I thought that was kind of a one-off, and it happened that way, kind of like the 85 Bears. I'm like, all right, we get our fill here. We waited 100 and what was it? I forgot how many years, 2, 3. I'm like, all right, I got my fill there. I could die happy. Because my great grandfather didn't ever see the Cubs win. My grandfather never seen them win. You know what I mean? It sounds crazy. How many people never saw the Cubs win? So that's cool. And the Bears.
Was that predicted in Back to the Future, Part 2?
Yeah, they were close.
They were like 1 year off, I believe.
They were close. They were tight on that, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right, my man. That's all I got for you today. We can start doing this maybe weekly or something. What do you think? I'll start putting it up there and see if we start getting a fan base with this. And if you want to do it too, I'll be on whatever show. If you want to do a show separately, if you ever, I don't know what I can contribute as far as football goes compared to the people I think you're dealing with a lot of more advanced, obsessed fans than maybe I am. I'm just kind of I watch a lot, but I'm not obsessed per player. I kind of more get caught up in team because the players are always going all over the place. So
I think it's also interesting. You'll get, there's a different perspective there, which I think is good.
Yeah, that might be good.
Yeah, I'm down with it. Let's see how we get, what kind of traction we get with this. And
it sounds good. It sounds like we're both dorks over here. I'm fit. How old are you?
How old do you think I am?
I have no idea. Does anybody think you resemble Seth Rogen a little bit?
Yeah, I get it pretty free. And what's his name? Green. Is it Seth Green? Seth Green? The guy that created Robot Chicken. What's his name? Robot Chicken creator.
I don't know. I'm sure if I
Yeah, Seth Green.
Seth Green, I'd have to.
I mean, I think I'm a little bit better looking than him, but whatever.
I'm trying to remember who he is. I know who he is. I'm just trying to remember the face.
Oh man, what is he in? He's in a bunch of things.
I'd have to see. Oh yeah, are you talking old school Seth? Like the one that goes way back? Like that's been he's like
Seth
royalty in Hollywood. He goes back.
He is pretty old school.
Yeah, Seth Green, you're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, he goes all the way back to Can't Buy Me Love.
Yeah, like old school stuff, He's he's
Dr. Powers.
Dr. Evil's son, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. I don't see that as well. That's why okay, yeah. Yeah, he's the creator of that show.
I mean, if I had Seth Rogen's money, I'd throw mine away.
Seth Rogen, I mean, he's a little too political at times for me, but he
seems like an
funny. His movies are funny. They're what is it? The End? This is the End or whatever is one of the funniest.
Great.
I couldn't believe it. And I always think they're not going to come out with something fun. There's so many Pineapple Express. I don't care what. They've done a lot of funny movies. I mean, Knocked Up was Knocked Up. I mean, I could start listing a lot of movies here.
Yeah. He's done a bunch of great films. I don't know why he's such an asshole though. Like in real life, it seems like he's just a dick.
He goes sideways a little bit. But he was in the Steve Jobs when he played what's it, Boz? Is Oz?
Wozniak.
Woz again.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable at that. He's a good actor.
Yeah, he does a good job. You got to separate the art from the artist. I think a lot of times people don't always do that. They'll get mad at, like, let's say R. Kelly music. I have a girl I work with that doesn't listen to R. Kelly anymore, even though she used to love him. I'm like, I get it.
Oh, yeah.
Or like Jews who won't watch Mel Gibson. I'm like, I love Mel Gibson. I might not agree with him, and he might hate me, but whatever.
Yeah, it happened a lot with this last run with Trump with De Niro, and a lot of people. I think it could be Barbara Streisand, it could be whoever, it could be a lot of legends kind of went Cher and all these people, amongst many different actors that you loved. I could start listing tons of them. I'm like, what?
They're people, whatever. They're entitled, but there's art that they've like. I don't know what he thought about politics. I could care less. He did great art.
Yeah. I get a little I hear you. I get a little aggravated with the Michael Jackson. I do think they let celebrities get away with a little too much with children. That aggravates.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And
that's for sure. And that needs to be stopped. And obviously, Michael Jackson, that's awful. But he had great music.
Yeah. It's all nuts. Look at Vic. Man. Michael Vick, what happened there? You went back to football. Look what happened with him. You know what I mean? That's a tough call.
He served his time, and he's repented. I actually, I'm a huge dog fan, and
me too.
I forgive him, like in that sense. Like you did all the things that you need as a human. That's actually what I think is lost in society in general. People getting second chances, people changing. It's not.
I agree. We all say and do stupid shit.
We're human beings. We're stupid.
A lot of it's programming. You don't know any better a lot of times too. Sometimes when you're doing crazy shit, I know this sounds crazy. I mean, sometimes you know what you're doing, but sometimes it's just the history of your culture or the way you grew up amongst others, the environment, the people, the family. It could be like me hunting, like say people go out and hunt, and I'd be like, I can't believe these people go out and hunt, and then I don't hunt, but then I'm eating a steak. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? I'm just saying, like for me,
or wear leather shoes, right?
Or do whatever. Like it's kind of like, I mean, we can all have a problem with somebody after a while, but Michael Vick went out of line there, but I'm just saying.
Of course he did, but there's a lot to say to your point that there's a culture in his circle, and there is, and it still exists. It's not like just
exactly.
Because there is a dog fighting culture. There's even chicken fighting culture. There's that, it exists.
I went through that in Florida when I moved here when I was younger. I was hanging out at a World's Gym, and then I'd hang out at these like rough powerlifting gyms that were some hubs for some of the most steroids coming through for all the universities and high schools. And there were a lot of, redneck dudes. And after, I was a Yankee to them, a Chicago guy, but after they've known me and I was coming here at 15 years old, summer school, and they see me coming back and forth. Then they saw me move here. Then they started to invite me to some of these the dog stuff. And I was like, I don't, I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy. I'd break my heart, but they groom these dogs. There was like this famous dog in South Florida, all these dogs. And I was like, oh my God, but it was big. People underestimate a lot of this stuff, how big this underground, that fighting, a lot of crazy shit out there that goes on that people don't know about. But
yeah,
that's Florida.
that's the world in general. People are just and we're oxymorons in a sense. We all contradict ourselves in one way or another. And same people who are against these dog fights or be pro-abortion, whatever. I'm not for whatever. That's a whole other.
Yeah, I mean, you could go against that. Yeah,
it's kind of ironic.
It is. All right, brother. I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thanks for being on this. This is awesome.
Thank you.
And if you want to check out me and Tal, we do other ones on what is it? Optimized Being, correct?
Optimized Being, yeah.
Jason, how do you say his last name? Demchuk? Is that correct?
Dumchuck, yeah.
Dumchuck? It almost sounds like Numchuck to me sometimes.
That goes to his Buddhist nature.
Yeah, so somebody who's kind of assists me with a lot of things. Jason is a close friend of Tal's. So we've been doing podcasts over there, and what's funny is Tal does this podcast with this behind him. This isn't just for today. So, and we would discuss this, and I said, I haven't done a video or uploaded one with a guest in a long time. I do get hit up by a lot of guests. I just don't do them. To be truthful, I'm not there to do an infomercial anymore or listen to other people's pitches a lot of times, even if they're close family members or friends. But when you're connected to a lot of people, they all want to come on your channel and pitch. And I even did a podcast. Maybe it's time to start charging people. I'm not saying friends and family members, but running a podcast maybe is kind of becoming it's kind of overwhelming if you have your own channel and everybody wanting to be on it. But I wanted to have somebody as a guest that I wanted to learn something and something I'm interested in talking about as well. So thanks for being my guest, brother.
Thank you for having me.